How about another quick intro? So for those of you just joining me and just discovering my little corner of the internet, my name is Michael and I want to welcome you to Sovereign Gaming in Life Sims, the YouTube channel where I build worlds, lots, and share my thoughts on video games in the life simulation gaming space. So we are doing part 3 now of the Goth Manor build of my SimCity project that I've got going on with my channel. And yes, this will be, I can't promise that I'll never do another quick intro again, but I definitely had to be very concise with it just because we're just jumping right into the action. As I have explained before with part 2 and part 1, I never anticipated that this would be a 3-part build, so things like the beginnings are quite chaotic to say the very least, since we're just really jumping right into the speed build. Speaking of which, if you haven't watched part 1 or part 2 of the Goth Manor build, then I certainly recommend doing so, since I go over floor plans and I kind of explain what my ideas and directions were in going forward with this. So here we are, part 3, where we do finish up the Goth Manor. So at the end of the video, the tour will be fully fleshed out and I'll be showing off everything that Goth Manor has to offer in my little build out here. However, today, to finish up with the rest of Goth Manor, all I really have to do is furnish and build out the basement, finish up the 2nd floor and the master bedroom suite there, and then also work on the 3rd floor, which has a bunch of bedrooms there as well. So yeah, we are starting in the basement, and I gotta say, between the 3 different levels, the basement is probably the one level where I don't feel so strong with. Now, don't get me wrong, I feel like I still did a pretty decent job at it, and I do like certain aspects of it, but I'm sure that I could tweak a few things here and there, and like I mentioned in part 2, like I'm always open to suggestions. There is going to be some sort of a Pleasant View edit episode somewhere down the road when I'm actually finishing up and working on Pleasant View. So that edit episode won't be for a while, but when I actually do get to it, I'm going to be reviewing the videos and the other Pleasant View builds, and of course looking at the comments just to see if there are any suggestions out there that you guys might have had or some inspirations that you might have wanted to share with me. So feel free to sound off in the comment section if a certain idea just kind of comes up and you feel like it would be nice to have it implemented here. I don't mind doing that kind of thing. But yeah, the basement is the area of the house that I felt was a lot more private. I never wanted to give access to the basement directly to the public. Since the rest of the mansion has a set of ballrooms in it, really the idea is that your guests wouldn't be going to the basement, and that the basement is really only for the family to just kind of hang out in, and also you know, maybe close friends or close family would actually make their way down towards. The idea with the other ballrooms, like I explained in part 2 and I believe in part 1 as well, is that when you host parties or you have Sims over as guests, they just kind of hang out in the ballroom areas and on the 1st floor there, and they have everything that they need. Whereas down in the basement, you can have a little more fun, you can let loose a little more. It's a little less formal, it's more casual, and that was really what I was going for here. And with the basement, the thing that I really wanted to also kind of share here as well is just that there are different utilities that you can use the basement for, and I'll explain that in just a bit. Before I explain what the rest of the vision for the basement is, I actually do jump around a little bit with the rest of the house, and the reason why I'm doing that is that I found some inspiration for bathroom style choice, and I really liked the reference that I was using for the bathroom, and so I just kind of leaned into it. And bathrooms are something that I find a little tedious just because they're set up mostly the same way. They don't exactly tell they don't exactly tell a whole lot about the property. And like, sure, I've done luxurious bathrooms in the past. I mean, you can check out the Crumple Bottom Chateau build if you want to check out some luxurious bathrooms that I've done, and I have the utmost respect for them because bathrooms are certainly very important in the house. But when I'm doing them in The Sims 3, I find that the layout seems to be pretty much exactly the same. I like the idea of having like the walk-in showers for the full bathrooms, and when it comes to the specific color palettes and the choices, design choices that I wanted to make for the bathrooms, I wanted them to be consistent just to fit the overall theme of Goth Manor first and foremost, but also not for them to just kind of appear out of place. So when I do the bathrooms, and I'm sure that you guys have noticed this in some of my larger builds where there are more than one bathroom, I like to do them all in one go, just so that I'm not having to copy and paste the wallpapers and the floors over and over and over again. And I like to try to keep them to the same style or the same theme, so that I don't have to switch it up for every single bathroom and to make them each different. So yeah, that was something that I had decided to choose to do, and I made that choice here as well, and it's something that I will likely continue to do going forward. There was a little bit of an awkward space in the library, and I kind of left it blank in part 2, but in part 3 here, at first it was just like a part of the hidden passages. But then, you know, I just took a second look at it, and I was really looking for a place to put in a powder room of some sort, or a half bathroom, as you guys may know it as, since there is no bathroom on the ballroom. And again, I don't want guests wandering all over Goth Manor trying to find a bathroom. I wanted all those amenities on that first floor so that everybody had access to them. So I used that space and I just repurposed it as a powder room that's just found within the library there. It's not the best placement, I will fully admit, since something like that should be accessible from the ballrooms, but because I had all of those hidden passages taking up so much space already, I really didn't want to take any more space away from the ballrooms. And besides, if I had done that, I would have had to find an opportunity, or, you know, I would have to try to make it make sense in terms of putting a floor on top of the walls used for the powder rooms in each of the ballrooms. Another option that I might explore when I do an edit episode is maybe putting in another powder room in the dining room, because that could help balance things out between the library and the ballroom. But now that I'm saying that out loud, you don't exactly want bathroom facilities in an area where you're eating. Maybe I can like block off the hallway or do something sort of small there. Again, I'm just kind of talking that idea out loud there. I will certainly explore it a little more whenever I get to the editing episode, which again is not for a very long time, until after I start finishing up the Pleasant View neighborhood. But anyways, when I was doing the bathrooms, I wanted to use a different color palette. Instead of it being like a black, white, and red, which I've been using throughout the rest of the house, I wanted to be more like a black, white, and purple color palette, just so that I'm able to change it up just a little bit while keeping it under that same umbrella of it being a darker themed home that has Gothic elements within it. And so I really love how the bathrooms turned out. I think that the purple really does add a nice visual cue for the players as well as they are playing this mansion, because you can get lost in this mansion in a way. And, you know, I imagine, I should say, that players could get lost if they're just not used to this lot and they're just not used to the layout. And so the color change helps to kind of cue, okay, like these are the bathrooms because I see a bunch of purple and white and black, for example. And yeah, that was a really it was kind of like a bonus to the design choice that I made to it, in that it added to actual gameplay playability. So I'm really happy with the way that the bathrooms turned out. When it came to the mirrors, I really wanted to use like those old-fashioned mirrors, but sometimes like the size on the mirrors just kind of didn't make sense for the space. For example, in the master bathroom, I actually had to switch the mirrors to a different design, a really nice design still, and I was very thankful to still have that design in there. I think it came with the Supernatural expansion pack, whereas before I was using one that came with the one of the French one of the French DLCs from the store. But anyways, I found another mirror for the master bathrooms, and I felt like that, you know, having a pair of those made a lot more sense than the other one. But yeah, the master bathroom is certainly something that I really enjoyed. I think that what really helps to add a luxurious twist to a master bathroom is the idea of having water closets, like just little separated areas for a toilet where you can just like close the door within the bathroom. So it's like a room within a room essentially. Something like that I think adds such a nice luxurious touch to it that I decided to add that into the master bathrooms. And then of course, like the all tile walk-in showers that I kind of have to like make in each of these homes is certainly something, again, that just adds a nice little touch of a luxurious feel to it. So yeah, I was very happy with the way that the bathrooms actually turned out. I normally don't really enjoy bathrooms like I mentioned before, but with this mansion, like I really fell in love with pretty much all of the rooms except for the backyard, which is something that I have been very open about in terms of my struggles with it. But for the rest of the Goth Manor, I really fell in love with each of the rooms. I really enjoyed them for what they were. Even the basement living room with the large TV, which is, again, you know, having a large TV, I feel is going to be very dated. I'm gonna make a bold statement there. I feel that big TVs and TV screens are going to end up being dated in the next 10 or 15 years. And it's gonna be all about a blank wall and a projector that you can hook up to your computer. That's just something I'm calling out right now for what the next trend will be. And I've seen it work myself flawlessly, mind you. But yeah, TVs and all that, like even the living room in the basement was something that I really enjoyed. It felt much more private and like the Goth family can just let loose. You might be hearing my cat in the background, so I gotta let him out and I'll be right back with another audio recording. Really sorry about that. Sometimes my cat likes to hang out with me when I am doing audio recording, and when I'm doing that, I always have to close my door just to try to eliminate all background noises as best as I can. Clearly, I'm still not perfect on that, but he is a cat. His name is Lou, and he is a cat that will certainly make himself known and heard if he wants out or if he wants something. He likes to patrol around the house here, so he's probably going to want back into the house into my room in just a minute here. But anyways, I'm going to keep pushing forward here because there was something I also wanted to point out with the bathrooms as well, and that was the use of the marble floors. I thought that the marble floors was really like a nice touch just to bring in the elements of both the black and the white, and just to like really make each of the bathrooms and even the powder rooms feel a lot more luxurious. The issue that I have with a lot of the marble patterns in The Sims 3 generally is the veining in the marble. It's either too bold, like it overtakes the rest of the pattern, or it's too subtle. Like there's no good in between there. It was something that I also struggled with when doing the penthouse build as well, because I wanted to use like a really bold black and gold marble within the kitchen, which I was able to successfully find, but it's always a struggle to try and find the right marble pattern in The Sims 3. And it's another reason why I try to avoid using it, even though I love the idea of having marble walls or marble floors. And yeah, it's something that I try to avoid using just because it really doesn't hit right in a lot of like when it actually shows up on objects or on floors or on walls, where it is obviously going to be most popularly used, or on countertops even. But yeah, I found the marble pattern that I did. I really liked it, and when I went to do the master bathroom, I tried my best to actually have the bathtub use the same pattern, which it does. But this again is another issue with The Sims 3, is that sometimes patterns that are applied to objects and floors, like they're a different color, even though they are using the exact same hex codes and whatnot. Like you'll see in the bathtub, and I hate to point this out because it kind of breaks the illusion, or maybe this is just me that notices this, but The bathtub is slightly darker than the walls and the floors, and that's not the effect that I was going for. I just wanted like a nice continuous marble tub that just leads up into the walls. When thinking about it, actually, maybe like if I had the power to actually rotate the pattern, maybe that would have made a difference, just because the bathtub is using the marble pattern at a horizontal slant, at a horizontal alignment, I should say. And maybe if I switched it to a vertical alignment, it would look like the marble floors was growing into the bathtub, which was then continuing onto the walls, because that would have been a really sickening look that I was really going for. But anyways, limitations of the game have kind of prevented me from actually achieving that, and I'm sure that there's DLC out there outside of the Sims 3 store that is able to achieve that kind of a look. And no, I'm not really that open to downloading custom content outside of the Sims 3 store, not until at the very least I'm done with the SimCity project. But anyways, I mentioned in part 2 that I was going to add a hallway between the dining room and the garage, and you'll see me just kind of quickly add that in there. I have no idea what else I was using for using the space for, so I just kind of added in like some seemingly random decor objects around there. Maybe I should redo that again and just try to like give a nice place to like hang up your coat or what have you, because it is more a transition area from the East Wing garage into the dining room. And I didn't like the idea of having a door that directly leads into the dining room. I feel like that's just not proper etiquette for a mansion of this caliber. So I added in that hallway quickly to try and cover it up, but maybe when I go back and do an edit episode, I will certainly try and make it look like you can drop off your things and all that, or at least try to emulate that a little bit better. Like I mentioned before, like whenever I watch these episodes with you guys and do the audio recordings, a lot of the times like some time has passed between me actually building the lot and me doing the audio recording, so I'm always like seeing new things and getting new ideas here and there. So yeah, and of course, like if you guys have any ideas, drop those suggestions below. I really don't mind. I hate to sound like a broken record there, but hey. Moving on, let's talk a little bit more about the basement now that as you guys can tell, like I got a little distracted with the bathrooms and then the hallway and all that, and that's just kind of how my mind works, is that when I get stumped on doing something, there's always something else in the back of my mind that I know that I have to get done. So instead of just kind of like sitting and staring at the computer screen or looking for inspiration on my phone, I'll actually try my best to get a move on and do something that I know that I can do while waiting for inspiration to strike. So in this case, it was the bathrooms, since I knew where all of the bathrooms were and what design I wanted them to be done as. So instead of just kind of twiddling my thumbs, I kind of moved on and just did the bathrooms and the hallway there. But yeah, one thing that I wanted to add into the basement was some sort of a seance room with an audience, or like an opportunity to have like an audience that watches like a reading or something. I feel like the Goths would totally host seances and like maybe contact their dead relatives that are buried in their backyard. And so I figured that they would maybe monetize that and maybe even have like live viewings for Sims to just kind of come and congregate in the basement and make their way to the seance room. The seance room was very heavily inspired by Miss Lucille's Boulangerie, which was the bakery build that I did way back in Old Town, just because I gave her a little private crystal ball reading room. So I use a lot of the similar themes there, except this time I just kind of put in a stage with some additional seating so that you could theoretically have a live audience kind of watch in. The other room, that I kind of built is a room to practice like witchcraft and apothecary, or to build up, I'm completely forgetting the skill, but I believe it's the apothecary skill. I might be incorrect on that one. It's the potion making skill. Why am I drawing a blank on that? But anyways, that is the next room over. It is actually hidden by one of those hidden bookcases, and because there isn't direct access to it in the game, it actually blacks it out. So you actually have to open up the bookcase before you can teleport your Sims into that room. So a handy little thing there, because if you add in doors to any, you know, quote unquote rooms that are hidden, like with a hidden bookcase, they'll actually be blacked out. They actually won't be blacked out unless, you know, they are completely blocked off and you have to find the hidden bookcase or whatever. I hope I explained that one correctly. But anyways, in the witchcraft room, I really ran out of a lot of inspiration for it. I really wanted it to be a secret apothecary and a secret place for them to practice their witchcraft in. This mansion is really appeasing to a couple of occults here, and you'll see in a minute that I start appeasing to the vampires as well as the witches and wizards, as you're seeing right now. And the reason why I kept a lot of the occult stuff in the basement is just to kind of keep it more private, and also to offer players a chance to, just to offer players a chance to see if they want to actually open that up to public guests and whatnot. It gives the players the option to either keep it private or to make it public if they so chose. I hope that's making sense. I don't think it really is, because I was half listening to myself and I'm like, what am I actually saying here? But in the Sim City, I do want to at least flirt with some of the occult themes, and I've done a lot of that. I've done a lot of a sort of occult building in Old Town, and because Goth Manor is Goth Manor, it's appropriate to also do it here as well. Although I do feel like there is some opportunity to refine and edit the magic room, I suppose. There were some design choices that I actually decided to make. One being the chain object, which was a Sims 3 store object that came with the, I believe it was like the mansion. Yeah, the mansion lot. It's the TS3 store one where you get two versions of a mansion. One where it's all revitalized and nice in the past, and then the busted down mansion. And in that you get these chandelier chains. And I've used these chains before in the graveyard build much earlier in this series. However, I'm using them again here just to kind of show that maybe something heavy could be placed inside the cauldron, and that you'd have to like wind up the chain and all of that to actually drag something up. It just felt a little more spookier than just throwing in the cauldron, which by the way is another Sims 3 store related item, just in the middle, and just kind of calling it a day. So I added in the chain because I felt it was a little more creepier and a little more darker. Now I did actually position the mirrors the way that I did in front of the podium, which is another, again, Sims 3 store object where they expanded upon some of the magic spells and whatnot. And it's actually a very expensive item. I believe it's only like, I believe it's like either 45,000 or 70,000 simoleons. It does add to the price tag of the Goth Manor overall, but it's really not what makes this mansion 1.2 million simoleons, which is pretty intense for Sims 3 standards. Anyways, the mirrors that I placed around the platform, there is actually a Skeleton Key movie reference. That was a movie that featured Kate Hudson, and I'm gonna try and not spoil it here, but towards the end of the movie, there's a lot that has to do with mirrors, and so I used the mirrors here just to kind of emulate that and just to kind of make reference to that horror movie. And it was a movie that I liked per se. Like, I liked the storyline more than I felt it was scary. Let's be honest here. But yeah, it was a reference. It was a movie reference that I decided to include in here just because I felt that it was certainly something fun, and it helped to create more of a space within the hidden magic room that we have going on here. outside of that, like, we'll move on to another like secret area within the basement. Again, this basement is really meant to be a floor where the Goths can keep private and they can do whatever they need to. And I know that the Goths aren't traditionally known as vampire sims, but I decided that I kind of wanted to create a vampire crypt as well, which is of course blocked off by yet another hidden bookcase. There's a lot of hidden door bookcases throughout Goth Manor, as you guys would see with parts 2 and parts 1, but this is yet another one that was just kind of hidden. And the reason why it's not blacked out like the magic room is because there's a ladder that leads from Bonehilda's room, but that's a whole other thing that I will explain in a little bit here. But yeah, with the vampire crypt, I really wanted to give them each their own personality. I really wanted like the lead vampire to be, or the head vampire to be, like to have their crypt all decorated in red. But then after that, I really wanted to show different kinds of personalities within each of those crypts. For example, like there's one that I do that's all in pink and there's lots of dolls around it, giving you that creepy doll vibe. By the way, a lot of the dolls that I got were from either the Supernatural expansion pack for the Sitting Girl doll, and then also for the other dolls, it came with Midnight Hollow world from the Sims 3 store, where they added in like a whole toy making store and all that. So that's where some of those dolls were coming from, and they really added nicely to that particular crypt there. I felt that it really helped to make breathe some life into the crypt, which sounds more like an oxymoron than anything else, but I really wanted to show some additional personality here. And yeah, it kind of does detract a little bit away from the Goth lore, but like I mentioned in part 2 and probably part 1, if there are occults, since there are occults in the Sims universe, I kind of wanted to play to those themes a little bit where I felt like it made sense. And here in Goth Manor, I'm just really presenting it more as an option to the players to choose whether or not they want to play their Sims that reside here as vampires or as witches or wizards or what have you. So the option is there, and if the players so chooses to, it would be a very comfortable option within this mansion build here. But yeah, there was another vampire crypt that I created where I just put in all plants, and that one I actually ran out of ideas for. I was just like, what am I going to make the last one? And I just kind of experimented with those wall panels, which again are super, super useful for both modern and I guess traditional builds, like for interior design, since they just it just complements each other. But anyways, for the plant one, I just ran out of ideas at that time, and I was like, what if Poison Ivy from Batman was really a vampire? Well, here's what her room would look like. So maybe you just have like a vampire sim that's also got a green thumb growing all the plasma fruits. So that was an idea there. I also put in a purple one just to kind of do the whole Bride of Dracula, what she would be doing, surrounding herself with purple. I really had fun with doing the different vampire crypts, and that's actually one of the things in the basement that I feel like I did pretty well at, was the vampire crypts, and even the hallway leading up to it, having the candles just kind of adjacent to the rugs really helped to give it that creepier feeling. And yeah, the last vampire room that I haven't explained was the white one, and I really wanted something that was, the theme was just like white and trying to make something angelic, because we don't normally think of vampires as being angelic, and so I really wanted to create the white crypt to sort of emulate that juxtaposition, that something that can be so horrifying is actually maybe very pure at heart. Maybe it's the vegetarian vampire, for example, or maybe it's a vampire, that wants to do well, but maybe their intentions and actions just really don't match up. The storytelling is really up to the player, and even if they don't use it, it could also be point of history within Goth Manor, and that it was a castle that used to have all of these crypts where vampires were rumored to have lived and all of that. So it just, like, again, it adds that additional history into the lot that I feel that, you know, tells multiple stories within just one building here. So yeah, I did end up adding in a science lab here, and there is actually a purpose for that directly relates to the lore of the Goths. I don't know how, but somewhere along the lines of, I guess, The Sims 3, it feels like they forgot that Mortimer was originally a mad scientist. His traits really don't, like, because he's a child in The Sims 3 from Sunset Valley, right? His traits as a child really don't align with something that a scientist would typically have, unless, of course, like, you add in the few remaining traits that he does have, you know, that would lead to being more geared towards science careers. But anyways, and so I really wanted to pay homage to the Sims 1 Mortimer Goth that we know, which holds a position as a mad scientist. And so I wanted to add in that science lab here, something that's kind of sequestered away just in the basement, away from the public eye, and away from any kind of wandering guests, because we all know that these guests love to wander whenever we're hosting parties or inviting any Sims from outside of the household over. So yeah, the science lab remains in here. It's something that I felt didn't need to be too expansive. I just wanted, like, a little, like, I you know, in real life, I believe it would be like a den that would be converted into a science lab with a locked door and all that. So that was really the look and feel that I was going for that one. Truth be told, when it comes to the basement of Goth Manor, I feel like there are some hits and misses in total. Like, I felt like the crypts and the science lab, an absolute hit. I feel that Bonehilda's room and the butler's room, again, some hits there. I feel like the living room, maybe a miss, but also the seance room is definitely a hit in my opinion. So yeah, like, when it comes to the basement, as much as I have professed my love for this lot and for this mansion build in this part as well as previous parts, the basement was kind of a hit and miss for me. And yeah, they're totally they're totally on the chopping block for editing, I suppose, if I can say so myself. Now, I also wanted to mention that I decided to create an entire nectar making room, and I actually did end up adding in the Granny's Cannery Stove, or whatever that's called, from the Sims 3 store, the one where you can make you know, jams and jellies and all that, just because I felt like it fit here just fine. Now, this is one of my misses in terms of the nectar making, and the whole reason that I even decided to create a whole nectar making room is because I wanted to reference Resident Evil 8 and the Lady Dimitrescu's castle there, because what she would do is she would turn her since they were vampires there, they would turn their victims into wine, essentially. And so I just kind of wanted to reference that really great video game there. Excellent story for Resident Evil 8. I quite like it. And same with Resident Evil 7. I really like the storylines for those kind of video games. Although I don't really play them myself, I like them for the storylines. So I have a tremendous amount of respect for those other video games. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to make a Resident Evil 8 reference in this house, and that's just kind of my reference that I add in here. Furthermore, like, nectar making can make your Sims a lot of money as well, and maybe this is the way that they can afford a 1.2 million simoleon home. If I got this thing up to 2 million, I'd be hella impressed with myself. But this thing is only 1.2 million, if I remember correctly. And yeah, nectar making is a great way for Sims to actually make money, especially if they make it and it just gets passed down in ages through different generations. It can make your Sims a lot of money. very hidden secret there. There are guides on videos and all that out there. I've never actually tested it myself. I just wanted to put in the nectar making here just to make that Resident Evil 8 reference, and also to maybe give players an opportunity to actually make some money after breaking the bank to try and buy Goth Manor. But yeah, I wasn't really too crazy about the room that I put the nectar making room in, the indoor nectary, I should call it. And yeah, if you guys have suggestions for that one, drop those comments. I do not mind. Again, I lost some steam when going through, when building out the basement here. But yeah, let's move on here and I'll talk a little bit about some of the servants' rooms. So first and foremost, in part 2 and part 1, I really talked about Bonehilda. And with Bonehilda, I wanted to give her her own room just because she's been with us since The Sims 1, and it makes sense to have her here in Goth Manor. But what I've also done is I've created all these hidden passages and hidden hallways and all that for Bonehilda to just kind of pop in and do some cleaning discreetly while maybe, you know, public Sims are out. And yeah, I just kind of decided to give Bonehilda an entire room all to herself, including a vanity table where she can apply makeup directly onto a skull. So I don't know how that would ever work. Do you switch to marker at that point? I don't know. But I felt it was kind of funny. But yeah, I decided to give her her own thing there, her own room. And I even added in like the juicer in the living room, fully knowing that Bonehilda likes to hang out at the juicer and likes to drink the entire thing. So, you know, Bonehilda is meant to be in this mansion. She's meant to be active, and the idea is that she kind of crawls through those hidden passages and cleans things up. I know I'm explaining myself twice there, but but it's one of those like really quirky things about the Sims lore that I really enjoyed, and I'm really glad that I could expand upon. Attached to the shared bathroom that she shares with would be a room that I intended to be designated as the butler's room. I imagine that players that play Goth Manor here are going to go all out with their services, hiring a maid and also a butler, like a maid that visits once a day. And the idea here is that with the butler's room being connected to Bonehilda, it just kind of helps to sequester them off into the basement, of course. But I imagine that you would want your butler to know that there's a skeleton maid crawling in the walls who might be cleaning some things here and there. So, you know, they share a bathroom. It's like, hey, you're also sharing the bathroom with this skeleton that's in the walls. So kind of one of those like creepy but funny lore quirks that I just kind of added into the home. So yeah, they have a shared bathroom, a his and her entrance, so to speak. And yeah, I'm not too crazy about like his and her entrances for bathrooms or Jack and Jill bathrooms, if I've got the proper terminology nailed down there. But to me, it feels like you could walk into, you know, someone else if you're not like paying attention, or if you forgot to lock the other side of the door, which is, you know, I'm just not too sure how that functions. I've never lived in a place that had a Jack and Jill entrance to a bathroom, but, you know, I decided to be very open-minded throughout this build, and I put one in there for the butler and also for Bonehilda, and I've also placed another one on the 3rd floor between 2 of the bedrooms there as well. So, you know, I'm trying to keep an open mind to it, but I don't know exactly how those Jack and Jill entrances work for those bathrooms, or those double-sided bathrooms. I don't even know what the proper terminology is, and I really should if I'm going to be speaking about them. But hey, I put them in here because maybe there is some sort of element of functionality I just don't understand. But I always like to pair the butler's room with their own ensuite, and I felt like this was a great way to just kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone, because I hold Bonehilda to the same regard or to the same standard as the butler. The other thing that I added into the basement that I will quickly speak about is just the mudroom. And the mudroom is, of course, the only other level in the house that has that dumbwaiter, that fake dumbwaiter that I built in part 2. And And the dumbwaiter, again, it's just there for, it's just set dressing essentially. And yeah, it goes down to the basement, specifically to the actual mudroom and the laundry room, where I've added in more food storage just to kind of expand on the pantry there. Like maybe you keep some of your other foodstuffs just kind of in there that you don't need immediate access to. Yeah, so that was kind of the idea with the mudrooms, just to double it as a secondary food pantry and also as a laundry room as well, since, you know, in The Sims 3, doing laundry is a whole song and dance, depending on how it's set up in the house. And if you have the right amount of servants and if they don't glitch out, okay. If you have enough servant NPCs living with your house, like specifically the butler and maybe even the maid, I mean, with Bonehilda, you should be good to go, but sometimes they forget to take the clean clothes out, which certainly causes backups and all that. So, you know, there is a fully dedicated laundry room / mud room for all of that. So yeah, you'll just have to pay attention to when your clothes are all dry and ready to be picked up. If you are worried that I'm not going to be able to finish the mansion in today's episode, let me just tell you that it was really the basement that took the most time between the basement, the second, and the third floor. And the reason being for that is that in parts 2 and parts 1, I was definitely building out and decorating the all of the floors, like all of the hallways that just kind of connect all the rooms together. And so yeah, I've been consistently building a little bit upon each of those floors, just kind of as I went, especially when it came to the ballrooms and the library, which are several stories tall. So I just kind of had my hand was forced in actually wanting to do all of the decorating for that. So everything has been slowly built up to this point. It's just that the basement I had done absolutely zero work on, and the rest of like the remaining floors, being floor 2 and floor 3, was pretty much halfway done, and I had a very clear vision on what I wanted to see for that. But yeah, we've probably moved on now to decorating the master bedroom. And the master bedroom is essentially like its own, it should really be called the master quarters now that I think about it. And what it composes itself of is it has its own like little entrance hallway, which is very luxurious feeling. But then like from that hallway, you actually walk into the office, like the private head office, that also doubles as a secondary cigar room if we really want to be technical about it. So, you know, theoretically, like the heads of the house here could have guests come upstairs into their master suite office and just, you know, chill out and hang out there, and it could be a good time, like if they wanted to, you know, host some guests that outside of a party that's going on in the ballroom. That's just, of course, like theoretical and some imagination being applied here, but that was really the idea that I had with the master quarters, or the master bedroom quarters, is that I wanted it to function more than just a place for the heads of the household to sleep. The sleeping quarters themselves, though, for the master wing, I suppose, is something that I had decided to be a little more experimental with, and you guys will have to let me know how I did in the comment section. But what I decided to do is that I felt that just placing a bed in the middle of the room was just not good enough, so I placed in a platform, and then I put in a bed, and then I surrounded that platform with those iron rock gates, because I feel like those look really nice and gothic. And then I just added in some of those curtains from the movie stuff pack, actually, interestingly enough. There's some haunted things in the movie stuff pack from The Sims 3, and so I used the curtains from there because they have this nice, pattern to them. forget what it's called, but it almost looks like it's crochet. Oh, that could be a wrong term to use there, but it looked very nice and it looked very spooky, so I just kind of wanted to place that around the bed just to kind of give it that sense of privacy, and you know, to kind of give it the idea that you could close the veils around it if you so chose. So yeah, that was something that I decided to add in there, and I felt that, you know, the idea was really good. I'm not too sure on the execution. Again, it could be something that I might edit, but at the time that I'm recording this and just kind of reviewing my work, I don't have any new ideas for that. So I still think that it's actually looking pretty okay, but if you guys have any ideas, of course, just sound off in the comments. It's fine. But yeah, the master wing, I suppose, or the master quarters really wouldn't be complete without a proper beauty room. And for the beauty room, I really wanted it to feel like the wife of the home could invite her friends and they could have, you know, a glass of champagne as they're all getting ready for an event or for a party that's being hosted at the mansion. And so that was the idea that I had there. When it comes to closet spaces and all that, like functionally speaking, you don't really have to do too much. You just need to have a dresser or a wardrobe, which I did end up adding in. I added in the magical one, by the way, just to again add in that extra magical intrigue to Goth Manor. But yeah, the beauty room is certainly something that I felt was done very well. There's a vanity table off to the corner. Again, sort of making another Resident Evil 8 reference in a way. Like, that's kind of what I had at the back of my mind. Maybe it's just not a traditional reference, but like a direct reference, but maybe it's more just a coincidence. But I colored it white because, you know, when Lady Dimitrescu, the 9-foot vampire lady, throws it against her like wall, it was a whole scene and all that. And yeah, I kind of put it by the window, kind of thinking, kind of, you know, referencing that in a very roundabout way. If this was a proper Resident Evil 8 reference home, there'd be a lot more references that I'd have to make here and there. And I did think about that, to be quite honest with you, but I decided to just put little pockets of references here and there to that. It has to stay true to the Sims lore and all that first and foremost, but you know, something from a different video game was kind of charming to just kind of add here and there. But yeah, the beauty room was something that I really enjoyed doing. The different wall dividers were great to use in both the beauty room and in the office as well, just to kind of divide or to block out the attention from, you know, the chairs with the coffee table in the middle and the computer in the office. Whereas in the beauty room, it's really designed as that privacy wall if you are getting changed and all that. So a couple of different functions there. And of course, like, because there's a fireplace on the level below it, I added in the fireplace here, and it just adds that luxurious look and feel to a mansion that I would come to expect. And having an entire fireplace of that size and of that magnitude in a beauty room, it just screams money. And it just, you know, really adds to that luxurious feel that I was going for in a way that is appropriate to the gothic undertones. So yeah, really happy with the way that the master bedroom turned out overall. And the ensuite that I continue to build there, I've already spoken about it before, but I feel like functionally it is something that is pretty excellent. When it comes to master bedroom ensuites, I prefer to have like a double sink situation going on for both, like, you know, husband and wife, or two partners to you know, to do their business and have two sinks. There's also two water closets. There's an entire bathtub. There's a shower. Like, it just does everything right in terms of the layout of the master quarters. And yeah, this is another one of the points in the in this build that I am really proud of. And speaking of which, I did change a lot of the colors to have that purple color to them as opposed to red. And you know, looking back on it now, it's kind of funny that all the bathrooms are also using the same color palette, because it does remind the guests like whose pot they actually piss in. And when they get to the master bedroom, it's like, oh, here we go. Here's the masters of the mansion here. But yeah, just kind of one of those like funny analogies that one could make in their head if they're playing this mansion. The remaining bedrooms of Goth Manor are really all found on the 3rd floor. And I'm not too sure if I read this from somewhere or maybe I'm just remembering it wrong, but I think that traditionally in Victorian homes, the master bedroom is on the 2nd floor, because the idea is that the parents would be able to know like who's going up and down each of the stairs, so that they couldn't have kids sneak away in the middle of the night. So that was kind of something that has been at the back of my mind when doing these mansion builds, is that I want to stay true to that kind of mentality sort of going forward, in that, in at least in the placement of where the master bedroom should be. And besides, you don't want to be going up like 3 flights of stairs just to go to bed. So another theory, I guess, would be that the kids would have more energy, and the energy to actually use to get themselves up those 3 flights of stairs if they need like a midnight snack, or if they're going to bed or whatnot. So, you know, to hold true to both of those mentalities, the rest of the bedrooms are located on the 3rd floor as well. And I decided when it came to decorating each of these rooms that I just really wasn't going to reinvent the wheel here. And like I had done with the butler bedroom and with the master bedroom, I decided to just recolor the panels. Again, I feel like those panels that I have used throughout the house are very flexible in terms of them being used for both modern and also traditional decorated homes. But when you recolor them, it just really adds in, yeah, that pop of color that I was certainly looking for in all of the rooms that are upstairs. So for the first couple of rooms that I did, I just decided to do like a standard boys and girls room, doing again that Jack and Jill shared bathroom. And yeah, I really feel like I did a great job on both of those. Like with the girls room, it was of course taking more on those pink tones, and yeah, feel like that I did a good job with that one. With the boys room, I did it as more like a dark blue, like a navy blue, something slightly different from the butler's room, because the butler's room is more like a teal or a dark teal or a blue green, whereas the boys room here is a blue. And of course, like, simmers can use these rooms for whoever they want. One thing that I did try to avoid doing was making a room that was specifically reminiscent of a specific sim from the Goth family. So Cassandra Goth would obviously be doing a lot more purples, maybe even more blacks in her room, and I decided not to make the girls' room or the boys' room specifically reminiscent of any of the Goth family members. And the reason why I decided to do that is that maybe not all players want to use this house as for the Goth family. So, you know, they can use it however which way they want, and they don't have to feel like they need to redecorate every single one of the rooms. And that's again another reason why I decided to use more Gothic undertones when decorating throughout the entire house, is that it doesn't feel specific to a subculture or to a subset or reminiscent of, or too much of a direct reference to like anything Gothic or anything from the Goth family, I should probably say. So yeah, when it came to the guest bedrooms, I am still going through a whole building journey when building out closets. So I decided to make these closets 2x2 with the door. Hate the doors, but it wasn't until after I was done this build that I did find a decent reference for another way to do closet doors. So I'm still discovering how I want to actually incorporate that in my builds. And I know for a fact, like in the crumple bottom chateau, which was a couple of episodes back, that I definitely did not add any closets to any of the guest bedrooms. So, you know, I got to go back and actually do that. That is definitely on the list of things to do in the edit. Actually, the Crumple Bottom Chateau might be the one that gets the most edits, if I'm going to be completely honest. But yeah, we'll again cross that bridge when we get there. That isn't for a while now anyhow. But yeah, the guest bedrooms were really came together. I love the fact that fireplaces were reused wherever they were possible to reuse. And just because it adds that luxurious feeling. And, you know, in these kind of homes, for older castle-like homes like this, these kind of mansions would have multiple fireplaces to keep the entire building warm, or as best as they could warm, I suppose, because I don't imagine all those fireplaces would be able to heat the entire place, but rather just certain pockets here and there. And I also just genuinely love the look of fireplaces, so I didn't mind any of that being repeated throughout. As we finish up the episode here, I really finish it off by adding in a nursery. And again, like, the nursery was another space where I'm just like kind of not all the way in love with. I don't mind how it turned out. I think it's fine. I know that I added in all of the objects that you need for toddlers, for them to learn, for all that, but I don't think that I did the best job with this, with the nursery, and I think that I was just stumped at the time that I was doing it. Of course, the nursery gets its own closet, so that feels nice, just as another added amenity into the home. And of course, like, just right beside the nursery is a public bathroom on that third floor as well. So there's the Jack and Jill bathroom accessible from the boys and girls room, and then there is the actual third floor bathroom just within the sleeping quarters that's accessible to everyone. So yeah, I feel like the nursery was fine, just the way that it was. Open to suggestions for the nursery there. I'm fine with it. Like, it's just fine. All it is just fine with the nursery. But yeah, another thing that I wanted to mention as well is that when I was doing these different guest bedrooms, I did have to do the thing that I wasn't really wanting to do when I was explaining it in part 1, and that was just to like add a floor on those multi-story windows. I was kind of given no choice just with the way that the rest of the layout was. So for the French arched windows that are in the nursery and in the girls' room, those just had to be the way that they were, and this space is just directly below it, if I remember correctly, are the master suite living quarters. So those all had to just kind of take the bullet for that one there. I had to go against like what I said I was trying not to do. Luckily though, those windows are all facing the back of the house, and they're not a part of the ballroom, so you can still technically look through the entire Goth Manor just by like looking through all of the multi-story windows on both of the ballrooms, and that's really the highlight of the mansion and what gives it its character and all that. So it's not like this was an end of the world thing that like really destroys my soul to having to do. It was something that needed to be done, and it just needed to happen the way that it did. Just the way that the cookie crumbles in this case here. But yeah, I am going to end off this episode. Goth Manor has been a heck of a journey. Again, I never in my wildest dreams anticipated that it would be a three-part speed build, but I had to do it to really show you guys how it all turned out. And I feel like if I didn't show you guys the process of it in the 3 parts, that it wouldn't necessarily be a speed build, but just like a collection of screenshots. So yeah, I'm very impressed with myself. I keep saying it, and I'm sorry that I'm not being more humble about it, but Goth Manor was really a masterpiece for me, and maybe this just kind of goes to show like how unskilled I am as a builder and as a decorator, but I really love how Goth Manor just turned out for SimCity and how it sits in the hills and the way it's all decorated inside. I really do think that it's a really job well done, and I'm very proud of it actually. So yeah, very excited that it is there. The version that you guys see on screen will eventually be uploaded to the Sims file ShareNet. I won't do that upload until I upload all of the Midtown lots. And that's exactly what's going to be coming up next, is we are going to be starting on the Midtown neighborhood back in the inner city neighborhoods of Sims City. So we're getting out of the hills, we're going back to the city, and I've got a collection of some really great urban builds on the way for you guys. And I think you're really going to enjoy them and see how that city skyline really develops and how, you know, how useful, I guess, and how many things you can do with your Sims just in the world and in the city itself when you add those lots into your world. But for now, I'm going to leave you guys with the tours. If they aren't already playing, then feel free to stick around with those. The tours are going to look familiar in the beginning, and that's because the tours have been slowly building up until this point, where I show off all of the rooms and all of that. So I'm very excited to finally have the tour actually built out. But yeah, with that said, I just want to take another minute here to say thank you so much for watching this series, for watching this episode. If you have any suggestions at all for the slot build, feel free to drop down those comments below. I know I've asked for a couple of suggestions here and there, but you know, if you've got something that you want to share, feel free to do so. I totally welcome that. And yeah, I'm just going to say thank you again for watching. It's been a heck of a ride to get these episodes out. But yeah, thank you again, and I hope you have yourself a wonderful day.